Hi, I'm Everett. Welcome back to the shop. Quick little project this time. It's for a buddy of mine. He's actually the parts manager at the shop I used to work at. What happened was the hose reel for the guys in the quick lube bays for their airline for where they check tires and top up tires and whatever. The little rollers kind of got messed up on it, and he was wondering if I could give him a hand. I don't know if you can buy the part commercially from the manufacturer or whatever, but they kind of need it fairly soon. So he gave me a call, and I told him I'd see what I could do. So again, quick little project for a buddy. Hope you find it interesting. Well, let's just say the boys in Lube land there and at the shop kind of let this thing go a little bit further than one would thought it would have been, good. And yeah, so just the rollers are pretty much done. I mean, they're just these cast cheap things. It got to the point where even one of the little axles was worn halfway through. So yeah, it was long ago time to fix this thing. I know you can just buy a new hose reel, whatever. I don't know if you can get these parts separately. Maybe you can, whatever. But I mean, seeing as, I don't know how much it would cost, but seeing as I have a hobby machine shop and I owe them a favor or two anyway, I figured just make them up for them. Now, these rollers are approximately, well, whatever it is, 7-11 across, roughly 18 millimeters. Okay, fair enough. And the pins are 219 or roughly 5.5 millimeters in diameter. Now, because of the fact that I don't have any 5.5 millimeter round rod, I do have some 250 thou or quarter inch or otherwise known as 6.38 millimeters rod. This is stainless, but I mean it'll work for what we need to do here. And I have a couple chunks of leftover scrap plastic from something, I don't know what. If I had to make a guess as to what kind of plastic, I'd say probably either high density polyethylene or UHMW. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. So, but I mean, it'll still be better than what was there. One of the things I like to do is watch the hobby machinists and some of the guys who make their living out of Eastern Europe, as well as the ones in North America, Australia, England, wherever. And it's really neat to see some of the stuff they come up with, because a number of them as hobbyists have very limited resources. So they have some really cool ideas sometimes. This might be cool. It might be a recipe for disaster. We're going to have to see. What Dmitri Berbraer does is he uses his 3-jaw for almost everything. Granted, he's got a fairly big lathe, but he'll stick square stock in, round stock, whatever. He just, makes it work. Well, I don't feel like putting the 4-jaw on tonight just to drill a couple holes, so we're going to take a trick out of Dimitri's playbook and set it up like this, because even right now, she's actually running pretty true, so I think that's what we're going to do to poke a hole through it. That's through. Now, that cut us, I'm reading right there, 249.5, 250. That cut us a really nice 1/4 inch hole. The shaft is going to be 1/4 inch, so we need a little bit of clearance for the shaft to spin. I have a letter I drill in here, and that's going to give us another 20 or so thou clearance to let the shaft spin inside. For the sketchy setup of the day, because of the length of the drill, I can only grip it near the very end of the tool. However, seeing as this is more of a reaming operation, it doesn't have to take much off, just a few thousandths on the outside dimension. We're going to roll with it. And I didn't even lock down the carriage, I just slid it in and out. It slid very nicely. So this center drill here is a 1/4 inch. There you go. That gives us our nice little bit of clearance in order for it to spin on the little axle. So it's at this point where I can now cut a little shoulder in there that's 18 millimeters across. I'm gonna face it first. Alright, final cut. This should bring us pretty close to 18 millimeters. 18.02 is the best stable reading I'm getting, so we're going to call that one done for this end anyway. So anyway, that's the little journal now we have to turn with. That can then get mounted in here. I'm just going to use the hole in that end and the center in that hole to do our cutting. What I'm going to do is I'll do the second piece off camera, get it prepped, and then we'll bring it back in for the next step. So the holes came out fairly close to the center on both of the pieces, and that's really acceptable enough for me for our purposes here. But nice thing is now on the one end at least we have a nice round spot to grab onto. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab with the full journal that we little cut there. We'll face this end. I was going to try the other insert tool, but I think this is going to give me more clearance to the center point. Now I can pull it out just a little bit more because I want to be able to use the cutting tool and get up close to the chuck, and just won't need a huge amount of support, just enough to keep it from walking. Now, part of the reason for the 18mm journal on the backside here was to make sure I could hit size. I did it also to give me a visual indication of when I'm getting close to my proper size for the rollers. Yeah, it's knocking the high spot or the corners off, and I mean, yeah, I need to make a number of passes to get it down close to size. I'll bring it back in when we're closer. It depends on how it depends on how hard I squeeze it. But even 17.95, plenty close enough for what we're doing. So there's our little blank. We'll be able to get two rollers, a short one and a long one, out of this. While I'm still on a roll, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and do the other one off camera, and then we'll come back in for cutting them off. Just setting the parting blade square to the chuck using a 1-2-3 block between the tool and the chuck. Snug. There we are. Now, as far as parting these pieces off, I'm going to use a super high-tech method known as an extra fine point jiffy marker. And I'm just going to mark the back end here. That's one of the long ones. Because as long as, yeah, and if I cut and leave the line, that'll be within a few hundredths of a millimeter. There we are, one roller. I'll have to take that little burr off, or little nubby off the end. So I'll just do the other three like that, same basic idea. So now we're on to making the little axles. Again, these are our old damaged ones. And we're going to do something similar as far as cutting to length as we did for the rollers. Make a little mark. And as long as I leave the line, I'm pretty darn close. I'm going to have to hacksaw left-handed here just simply because of the angle I'm at. There we go. So that's the one end. Yeah, they'll be a little rough. I'm just going to clean them up on the belt sander after I cut them. I'll bring you back in after. So there's really nothing left but just to put it together to take it back to him. Garrett did actually zip tie it together before sending it with me to keep all the parts in place, because the 4 bolts here, or screws or whatever, they're still back at the shop. So these are our old worn out parts. Here are our new parts. Let's take and, you know, it's not really Not really rocket science, as long as I can keep things from rolling away. But otherwise, I think that's a reasonably successful repair. I get to spend a couple hours in the shop playing around, you know, help out a friend. And yeah, so I'm not too worried about the paint on the little roller axle there. It'll disappear soon enough. But yeah, quick little repair for a buddy. Hope you found it interesting. So yeah, I'd call that a success. They roll nicely, no sharp edges, and well, they're round, that helps. The old ones certainly weren't, so anyway, I'm tickled with how that came out. I just so happened to have a piece of plastic in my stash and, you know, a couple little small pieces, and it worked out okay. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and yeah, see y'all next time.